We really liked it because at our age, we didn't want to have to reinvent the wheel. We're too tired to have to figure things out at this point in life. We're not the type of people who enjoys just sitting at a desk and staying home all day. We're involved in people, and honestly, Tarek, to us, business or whatever it might be, it's really just a tool for us. That's really what it is.
To 10x your impact, your reach, your revenue, it's actually easier than 2x because 2x is just grinding out and just putting in more effort on what you're already doing. But what 10x takes is a transformation in thinking and operating.
I think I mentioned it to you. When you get on a plane, in many ways, you got to trust the pilot. Sometimes I kind of look in the cockpit too, just to make sure they're, above high school age, right? And they look like they've got some experience. Don't do it on your own. Don't go solo. Surround yourself with the right people, certainly who you trust, who you value, and they can help you, get across that finish line, whatever finish line it is for you. So,
is franchising the path that you should take? And if so, how do you align with a franchise that excites you and that you can actually see yourself in? Now, this was the main question that Anthony had before he started working with us as a client. Fast forward about 7 months, and Anthony is now a franchisee with a brand that he loves, doing work that fills him up. But he wasn't confident about the decision or process in the beginning. So in this episode, we go deep with Anthony around the challenges that he was having in figuring out if franchising was even right for him, how he came to that conclusion, and really just breaking down his process of how he approached becoming a franchise owner. Now, if you want to buy a franchise in the next 12 months, you should check out my free franchise masterclass at franchiseempire.com/masterclass. And if you want to work with me and my team on finding or buying a franchise or resale business, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory and you can schedule a free call to see what's available in your area. The link is also in the description below. With that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Franchise Empire Show. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and building your empire doesn't happen overnight. My name is Tarek Johnson, and owning franchises is what helped me go from employee to employer and start building my empire for my family. So this podcast is for you, the empire builders. For those of you who want to build something that stands the test of time. This is for those of you who are crazy enough to believe that you can make the dream in your head come to life. This podcast is all about bringing you real people who are building real empires so you can get inside their mind and heart and get proven strategies and actionable insights that will catapult you to build, grow, and scale your empire. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Franchise Empire Show. I've got a special one that's near and dear to my heart today. I got Anthony with me. Welcome, Anthony. Good to see you again.
Aloha, Tarek. Good to see you too.
Yeah, aloha. How is it in Hawaii right now?
It's beautiful here in Hawaii. The weather typically is within a band of low 60s to high 80s throughout the year, and so low 70s is cold for those who live in Hawaii. I mean, we need a sweater at that point. We're a little bit wimpy out here when it comes to extreme low temperatures, but it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful out here.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I'm with you. I mean, being in Orlando, specifically, when anything below, 70, 65 feels cold to me. Um, so, well, I'm really excited for us to chat and just dive in today because it's unique because we worked together and you worked with the team and in your journey of becoming a franchise owner less than 10 months ago now, you were still just trying to figure out if franchising was even what you wanted to do, really. Now you're a franchisee. So I'm looking forward to just kind of unpacking the journey so that other people that may be listening to this can, they can either hear themselves in your journey and your story, and it provides them deeper insight and clarity, or just learn from your experiences, period. So, um, tell us a little bit about what you do now in terms of, or what you were doing in your full-time career, and then what business did you recently start?
Sure. Well, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me, Tarek. So, my wife and I have been serving as Christian ministers for close to 40 years. And that has been our heart and dedication our entire life. And it really has grounded us with our values, our priorities, what we think is important, and how we live. And we are getting close to the end of our quote unquote ministry career in the full time ministry. And so succession has been a big part of our life over the past few years and preparing for that. And, we want to be able to hand off the baton in leadership when it comes to our church responsibilities. That is part of what we need to be able to do successfully. And so my wife and I certainly thought through of what we needed to do to basically provide a living for ourselves, coming off support from the church. And so we've made different investments over the years, whether it be real estate, different real estate type of investments. And yet, business was intriguing for both my wife and myself. We saw that this could be the fastest way to obtain financial independence. My wife and I are 61 years old now, and so we're not spring chickens anymore. And so
It's
business.
crazy because you look nowhere near 61.
Yes, I am 61.
I don't know if it's just the camera or you just drinking from the fountain of youth or what, but yeah, you look
I've
fantastic.
never dyed my hair. Honest to God. Okay. Try to eat well, take vitamins. My wife takes great care of me in many ways. So, yeah, I'm thankful. Being Filipino too might help too. Filipino genes might help.
Nice.
And so, we looked into business acquisitions, and that could be a way to accelerate financial independence. And I've just done a ton of research over the past couple of years, tried to learn as much as possible. But then I can't, I don't remember how I came across your podcast or your resources, Tarek, but it might have been a YouTube channel or something, but it intrigued me, the franchise ownership. And that's when I started inquiring a little bit more, initiating and just asking about your resources. And I remember going through the real beginning start fundamental franchise program that you had, and that really helped a ton. It helped to extinguish a lot of my questions or concerns. What did it mean to own a franchise? We really liked it because at our age, we didn't want to have to reinvent the wheel. We're too tired to have to figure things out at this point in life. And so that concept, that business model intrigued us more and more and more. And then, certainly with your help, your mentorship, as well as your team, it just took one step further, further, further. And yeah, after even less than a year, we're thankful that we've taken that step to be able to own a franchise. And the plane is in the air. It's not very high off the ground, but it's in the air. It has taken off.
So our team have looked into a few hundred franchises and put together a list of 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million or more and that have a proven track record of both happy and profitable franchisees. So if you have a net worth of at least $150,000 and you want to see if the territory that you want is still available for any of these franchises, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good kind of summary. So, I think for a lot of people, what I find, and this was certainly the case with me too. Geez, 9 years ago now, signing our franchise agreement, there were a lot of other ideas on my mind outside of just owning a franchise. So, what you mentioned that you were looking at the possibility of like a business acquisition. Like what were all the things you were kind of considering? Like going into what's next? Like and what were you kind of giving like really serious considerations to outside of just franchising?
Well, certainly my wife and I wanted to continue using our talents and our gifts, and what was our passion. And uh, all of our lives, we've had to be involved in people, caring for people, and so we were certainly looking at different pathways, senior care. I think that's almost a selfish thing too, because we're all getting older. Uh, Things to do with the community, things to do with people. We're not the type of people who enjoys just sitting at a desk and staying home all day. We're involved in people, and so we were really trying to figure out, okay, where does God want us? Where could God use our talents and our gifts, to make a difference in people's lives? And honestly, Tarek, to us, business or whatever it might be, it's really just a tool for us. That's really what it is. And we're really trying to find, the right uh, tool and method in which we could spend our time. Because we all have the same amount of hours in the day, and we only have so much bandwidth and energy that we can pour ourselves into. And so, again, my wife and I are thinking how, for us, with our faith, it's important. How can God use us to continue making a difference in people's lives? And so, yeah, we considered different things, and some models made sense, some just didn't.
Like what? When you say you consider different things, like what were some of those things?
Some of the models we presented, there was like a line stripping business, pavement, parking lot, thing like that. And that my wife was concerned about the chemicals and poisoning employees and things like that. So that wasn't really going to be a helpful. Yeah, we looked into senior care. We looked into sports leagues, different types of things like that. Electrical company, plumbing company, um, and then even just trying to learn from some of the gurus out there when it comes to business acquisition, and even trying to study what that meant and how to even go about acquiring a business. But at the end of the day, I realized even if we were to acquire some business that's already up and running, we've got to pour a lot of energy and time learning that business and how it's run. And again, to us, it felt like reinventing the wheel. And at the same time, Tarek, we still lead the church, and so this is not, and that's a big deal. It's not like uh, we are running our business full time. We just can't, because our energy is expended. We have our responsibility in leading our congregation. And as I mentioned, part of our succession plan is by the end of 2025. That's when we will hand off the leadership. So it's going to take time for transition. And that's how my wife and I look at life. We're not going to go down the traditional path of retirement. Even though I like to play golf, I haven't played golf in months. But but yeah, our view of retirement is more transition. We're still going to be, uh, working in different ways and giving to people in different ways, and so that's kind of our time frame. So hopefully that answers some of that question there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I remember when we had chatted early on how important it was for you to, continue to. What's interesting is that some people, everyone's in a different level of what is that, human needs, right? Where we have some individuals come and they're maybe it's a husband who the wife takes care of the kids. He's the only income earner. And, he is really, really scared and nervous about the idea of buying into, a franchise. There's just there's a lot of, fear there. So it's a lot of coming from a place of kind of me, rightfully so in the sense that they're trying to provide for, their family. What was always interesting to me about your perspective coming in was always like, "Hey, I wanna do this so I can leave a legacy and so I can do more good." And so it really wasn't even about you, is at least the perspective that I got, in you pursuing this journey. The entire time it was like, "I'm just doing this so that I can kinda do more good, take care of my family, give back more." And I thought, "Wow, that's a really powerful place to come from." So I think that's definitely something that really, stood out to me throughout the process and the conversation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up, Tariq, because again, I know you'll be working with lots of different types of people, and everyone has their different stage in life as well as motivation of why they do things. And for my wife and myself, because of our faith in God and what we do, yeah, we have kind of beyond the horizon perspective. Eternal perspective helps drive things for my wife and myself. We're not living just for the here and now, and we're here today, we're gone tomorrow. Life is short, unpredictable. Tomorrow's not even guaranteed to myself. So it's funny. Every time I get on an airplane, I touch the door right when I get on, and I just say, "Not today, Lord, not today." I still want to live, Lord. So, and it's funny because it's kind of a running joke with my friends, and I've actually taken pictures of my hand on the door, right, and sent it to them and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up because yeah, for my wife and myself, legacy is important to us. It's not just about me or my wife. It's about how will impact continue after we're long gone. And it's even exciting because our adult boys and our I call them our bonus daughters. Those are our daughters-in-law, and we have two new granddaughters too. But we're all faithful Christians, and we're all together here in Hawaii, which is so special. But even talking with our kids, I mean, they're on board in terms of taking over the business when we're gone, and so it is a legacy piece to help them as well. And both my boys are both entrepreneur in spirit. They have their own businesses also, and so they get it. And I'm actually very inspired by their acumen and their business acuity and things like that. They're really awesome young men, and our bonus daughters as well. But yeah, my wife and I, yeah, to make money, that's just going to help more people because we have missions that we care for. We've got our local church. Um, you know, we donate a lot of money, not just us, but our church over time, just for causes that mean something, to help others. And so we're excited to see. Honestly, I mean, I've lived an incredible life, and yet my wife and I are super excited about this next chapter, this next decade of our life. I mean, we're because God's opening up doors for us, and the business component is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, and I mean, you're just a few months in, and I know you and I, chatted last week and talked about some of the irons that you got in the fire, so I'm excited for you. Now, before you started really kind of engaging with us, and I remember you going through our Franchise Buyers Academy when we were just launching it as a beta, like, hey, we want some people to go through this and test it out and kind of let us know what you think about it. And I remember you went through that, but where were you mentally in your journey around franchising? From what I remember, you were still trying to even figure out if this was the direction that you wanted to go. And then I think Kevin told me later on that you had actually worked with a different like franchise broker or franchise broker group prior to that. So what at that stage in the game, what was missing? Like, what was the piece of the puzzle that was missing that you were trying to figure out? And why 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 did you not, like, purchase a franchise before when you had worked with, I guess, a different group?
Yeah, no, I'd come across different franchise resources prior to coming up, meeting your team, and that's where some of the earlier things that I mentioned were introduced, and it just didn't resonate. I think the difference, and the reason why we didn't pull the trigger then, is we just didn't feel ready or comfortable or confident that we're stepping into something that we've done our due diligence and really vetted to the point where we, in our vernacular, we count the cost, whether we're able to really do this or not. But then coming across your beta program and your team, it just better equipped us and gave us more confidence. Like we have a better understanding of knowing what we're doing, and I think the advantage of certainly learning from you, Tarek, was you broke it down. You broke it down in pieces that honestly, um, not that it's franchising for dummies. That's probably, there's a book probably out there right now, for it. But no, I think breaking it down to make simple is powerful. Let me just say that simple is powerful, and that really, for us, built confidence because again, we've been in the ministry our whole lives. That's been our career path, and the more I understood business and the more I understood acquiring a business or even owning franchise, it was probably a couple of years ago that I had an aha moment that actually leading a church is actually leading a spiritual small business. And I don't want to secularize church because it's not secular. But what I mean by that, the connection of me seeing that, wow, my wife and I have been managing relationships our entire career, and that is so much of what business is management of people, relationships, communicating, making sure we're all good, apologizing to one another, forgiving one another, not holding grudges, all these kinds of things. It's a spiritual small business, and so that actually gave me confidence that for us to transition into owning a business wasn't as scary. And I know it can be scary for people, especially if it's a new. And that's what we try to do, not to look at the product or what the business entails, but actually how business works and how successful businesses work. And so I was actually encouraged to see that, gosh, our almost 4 decades of experience in the ministry is certainly not in vain, but can be used to our advantage going into the business world. And I see it working. I really do. My wife and I enjoy meeting new people. I think that's one of our strengths. We don't have a problem meeting new people and trying to get to know people. And so I see that helping even in the business world right now. So let's see. That's a long answer to your question, but where was I mentally? I think coming across your program and your team helped to build greater confidence in us. We can do this. We can do this, and that's why we chose to, uh, commit to your program and commit to being a partner and a student of yours. And thank you, yeah, thank you, Tariq, for being a great mentor. I know we haven't physically met each other, but I appreciate the value that you brought into our lives. That's made a difference, and hopefully we'll be able to meet each other one day in person too. Meet your family and our families as well. So
Oh, definitely. Yeah, my wife's been trying to, thank you for saying that, by the way, and my wife, let me know very clearly that, she is down to go to Hawaii at any time.
twist my arm, twist my arm.
So, as soon as the flight is booked, you'll be the first to know.
Nice, 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 nice. Look forward to that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so, when I found out the the franchise that you wind up buying, System 4, I didn't at that point really know much about that business. I really, Kevin and Krista and the brokerage team, I mean, they're really the experts in the matching component, which is a gift, right? Like, everyone has their unique gifts and their unique talents. Actually, I've just finished reading. I don't have it next to me. This book called 10x is easier than 2x, and yes, it's a business book, um, but it's not just about 10x in terms of metrics. It's about 10x in terms of impact, right? And so it's saying that basically to 10x your impact, your reach, your revenue, it's actually easier than 2x because 2x is just grinding out and just putting in more effort on what you're already doing. But what 10x takes is a transformation in thinking and operating. And one of the components of that is doubling down on your unique ability or your unique gift. So, from my goodness, from such a young age, God gifted me with the ability to communicate and to just, to speak and to be articulate. And I remember my parents when I was young, they said, "Man, he talks a lot and he talks really loud. He is meant to use his voice one day for something." And so it's so interesting. They had continued to speak that over me when I was young in a kind of joking way, but it's funny how it played out. But anyways, so Kevin and Kristen, the brokerage team, they're so good at that matching piece, which is very difficult, and it's really an art. And you experience the other side of it, right? Looking at maybe some other businesses that didn't quite fit, and maybe the timing just wasn't right. But when I've learned more about the business that you did wind up going into, and especially as we were talking last week, and I was like, oh, that is literally perfect for you. I mean, you're essentially just building relationships. You don't have to really hire a bunch of employees, and it allows you to use your gift. So, how did you I'm curious. I think within 2 weeks of you starting to work with us, they had presented the brands or the options, and so did you what made you say yes to, yeah, let me look into the system 4 more, and what else did you say yes to at that point in time? Like what did you start the kind of due diligence process with? And did you have like an immediate, ooh, that's it, or it was more of a slow burn?
No, well, first of all, yeah, working with Kevin and Carista was awesome. Never had experienced working with franchise brokers before, and I think what was special was that they took the time to understand who we were, and certainly um, them giving the personality or that talent assessment. I think was really helpful. The first time my wife and I have taken something like that in connection to owning a business, and so that was helpful to understand. And Kevin and Carista took that information, and then soon after they presented maybe a half a dozen different options in terms of what would match. And honestly, too, setting out in the franchise world, originally I thought franchises were more like the fast food type things. I mean, my understanding of franchises was very limited, and uh, after again working with you and being exposed to, like, wow, there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of franchise models out there. So that was eye opening for us as well. But when Kevin and Krista helped us, with some models, yeah, my wife and I were not looking to accumulate more stuff in life. We just did not. That didn't attract us at all. So, and we wanted something that was more pandemic or recession resistant. knowing what we've all gone through, recently with the pandemic. We saw what it did in devastating businesses around the world. And so we were looking for a model with low employee count. Um, and so those are some of our criteria, and didn't know what was out there. But as Kevin and Carista put these things together, System 4 really rose to the top. And for those who aren't familiar with System 4, it's a facility service management company. So we work with, different service providers and vendors like cleaning companies, electricians, plumbers, landscapers, everything that needs to be taken care of for a building that a business has. We can have touch points with that. And so not getting deep dive into the business model right now, but that one just stood out, to us. And so we started having initial calls with the corporate team, the COO named Scott Kubek. And Scott has such a great personality and demeanor about him. He's not pushy about it. He really just presents, here it is, and he lets us just sit on it. And he let us drive what we wanted to do. So that was very helpful. The more that we met and explored the business model and what it entailed, and the more not just the discovery day or the validation calls that we had with owners. We probably talked to 10 owners in the company. It just convinced us and helped us see that, yeah, everyone's going to go about it differently, but there was success. If you put in the necessary work, there was success, and that attracted us even more. What also really helped us, honestly, was just the corporate team. That impressed us. I think I mentioned it to you. When you get on a plane, in many ways, you got to trust the pilot. Sometimes I kind of look in the cockpit too, just to make sure they're, above high school age, right? And they look like they've got some experience. But that helped to convince us. The more that my wife and I interviewed them and they interviewed us, we saw their values, what they stood for, because it's a family originated company. 20 plus years, but even before that, the owner, Phil Kubek, was very established in the industry, so he knows what he's doing. But that meant a lot to us too, just how they run the franchise and who they are. I will say, the care and the partnership. We're going into month 4 right now in our launch. I mean, I have coaching calls 1 or 2 times a week, maybe more, without hesitation. I feel like, even though we are distant, we're in Hawaii, corporate offices in Cleveland, Ohio. I tell you, I feel like we've got the experts behind us doing this thing, and it has been second to none when it comes to support in a business franchise. So couldn't be happier with the support that we are getting, the ongoing support. And it's not just for a period of time, it's for as long as we want it. We have the support from them, and they have proven their word, which has been so encouraging. So it's a little bit longer answer than I think that question might have entailed, but yes, going back, mentally, your program really helped us. And for those who are going through the program, take those steps, whether they're baby steps or big steps for you. Ask lots of questions. In the Bible, there's lots of principles. With many advisors, plans succeed. And we've tried to be great students and learners and ask lots of questions, because we can move a lot faster by learning from experts. We can accelerate, our progress a lot faster. As we've done working with you, Tarek, we've been able to accelerate. Who would have known, a year ago we would be in this position, and we're grateful. We're grateful.
Hey, so if you want to figure out if you should buy a franchise and learn the fastest and easiest way to figuring out the best franchise to buy and everything you need to know about the process, then you'll want to go get access to our Franchise Buyers Academy. In our Franchise Buyers Academy, you'll get a behind-the-scenes look into specific franchises and exactly how much money they are making. You'll get simple formulas for finding money making franchises and a blueprint on how to scale them into a franchise empire that can be sold for a lot of money later on. You'll be able to finally answer the question on, should I buy a franchise? Now, you can get access at franchiseempire.com/FBA. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, the feeling is mutual. Yeah, I was looking back in my inbox and to kind of just look and see when we had those initial touch points, and yeah, it was November um of 2023. And you said, as we think about succession, we plan to own a business or more to fund our desires and to give back to our church community and fund more opportunities around the world, and excited to see if franchising will be a fit for our dreams. So what is it to look, I mean, I know the feeling as an entrepreneur of like, oh, we're not there yet, like you said, the plane's still taking off. But what it when you think about the how different your life now is in the transformation you've made in less than a year, what does that feel like? Because this is something that you've been thinking about it for a couple years, or thinking about just business in general. So what's the feeling now that you've at least crossed over the other side, or taken off, to use your analogy? We're talking about planes a lot.
Yeah, I do a lot of reflecting and meditating and writing down things and really practicing in my mind uh, what the future could be like. And I appreciate you even bringing up the statement I made in November, and to see that, wow, it's actually come true is really exciting. It wasn't just a pipe dream or some good intention, but gosh, making those kinds of statements and really believing, but then having the willingness that you got to put the work in. And I think that's where putting the work in with your mentorship and with your training makes it a lot more doable and possible. And so, yeah, the feeling, I think I mentioned to you, gosh, when we got our first like income, our check from a service that we did. I think it was like 1 a.m. at that point when I finally got home. But I took a picture of it, right? It's like the first dollar that your lemonade stand ever makes. You kind of frame that and put it on your wall. But my wife and I have to consistently celebrate these small but big steps of victories. And and that's how my wife and I see it. It's really they're stepping stones, and so we're grateful, we're thankful that God has allowed us to even be in this situation and in this position, because we trust that God's going to use this to, as you say, 10x things, and that excites us, even more. Um, but it's a stepping stone, Tarek. Who knows what other doors God is going to continue opening up over this next decade, and what what the possibilities will be, year by year. But right now, yeah, we I've certainly taken my wife out to dinner and celebration, because it's a big step for both of us. Uh, my wife and I really work well together. We both are in the ministry together, and probably every day I just tell her I'm so thankful to be doing life with you. And I'm going to start tearing up because she certainly is my best friend and uh, best partner. In life, we kind of joke, who's going to die first. Um, I'd probably want to die first because her dying first. I don't know what life's going to be like. I mean, life will go on, absolutely. Uh, it's funny. She says, Anthony, if I die, you can remarry again, but just know that I'm going to come haunt you if you do. Oh, yes.
That's hilarious.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if that answers the question there, but yeah, we're grateful. We're grateful for every day. Again, the scripture in Matthew 6 talks about each day has enough trouble of its own, and that's how we try to live our life. Really, we're just grateful for what we have, and want to um, do our best in what we have, and take care of what we have, and give our very best. So, yeah, we are thankful. After less than a year, we are here. It just shows me how things can move very quickly once a decision is made. And again, I think for the listeners who are on the podcast, you might be on the fence, and that's okay. At least you're on the fence. You're there. And but I know once we made that decision, after the due diligence and the vetting, then it sure helps when you have a support team. And that's what I would say to certainly the listeners. Don't do it on your own. Um, don't go solo. Surround yourself with the right people, certainly who you trust, who you value, and they can help you. Get across that finish line, whatever finish line it is for you. So
Yeah, do you think you would have came across this business on your own, or even or looked into it if you were kind of doing it on your own?
no, absolutely not. Yeah, I I think it'd be very, very unlikely that I'd ever come across this specific franchise business. Um, yeah, yeah. And again,
Yeah,
for
because you
us,
go like
yeah,
facilities management.
yeah. I mean, again, for us, my wife and I pray a lot about things, and we trust that God's going to lead us to the right people to help move things. And certainly, you're an answered prayer, Tarek, and your team. Certainly, System Four and their team is an answered prayer, because we ask God a lot. Redirect our paths. If this is not the path you want us to go down, then please change it, because we need to see that. We don't want to wander in the desert for 40 years. An Old Testament reference there, because we don't have 40 years to wander at this point for my wife and myself. And so, yeah, that, to us, God is our business partner, and that's the most powerful partner we can have. And again, everyone has their own space, and they're doing things for different reasons. That's just who we are, and that's how we try our best to live our life and to function in our life. So I don't really want to make this. I know this is a franchise thing, but this is just who we are. This is not. I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to uh, have a sermon here or anything, but really just come from a place of just who we are and how we try our best to function in our lives.
No, I love it, and it's incredibly authentic, and I think it's important. I mean, there was a point where Bridget and I, my wife, we started to notice that, huh, all of the all of the couples and the people that we look up to the most, we connect with, that seem to have the best values, that are doing life the right way, or seems like it. Um, and they all had a strong faith. And so I think it's important. And what is it's really obvious. I'm sure people, after listening to you and us this long, that your mindset is so obvious, and it's not. That's like, you can't. I guess you could fake it, but I can tell it's genuine and it's authentic. And sometimes it makes me nervous, because we may work sometimes with people who maybe they're a little bit more negative, and I truly believe that what you put out, you get back. And when you put out those fear-based thoughts, you're sowing fear-based thoughts. Those are the seeds you're planting, and those are kind of the fruit that winds up bearing. And so, what advice would you give someone who is in in a fear-based mindset, and they find themselves, just kind of constantly thinking about the worst and maybe kind of stuck in moving forward and just thinking maybe blame, victim, whatever it is. How do you shift out of that to then create the results that you want, whether in business or in in any other area?
No, great question. Great question. I know for me, great question when it comes to just fear or negative thoughts or critical thoughts or criticism and things like that. Can I read a passage? Is that okay? Can I read a
Of
passage? Right?
course. Yeah.
Well, there's a Bible scripture in Philippians 4, and the author is the Apostle Paul, and he's writing this from prison. So the joy level may not be very high in prison, and yet, he says in verse 4 of chapter 4, rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again, rejoice. Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything in prayer, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And then he says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And so I'm not sure I could write this from prison personally. I don't know if I would have that kind of mindset. But it's these kinds of um, principles from God's word that helps me and my wife. And again, I don't, with your listeners, everyone's going to be at a different place when it comes to faith or belief in God. Some may not even believe in God. But it's the principle of think about good things, think about praiseworthy things, pure things in your life. Think about positive things. Those are the things that will help extinguish negativity and fear. I know for me, even the other day, honestly, I was driving in the car and I pray in the car and I have conversations with God. And I said, God, am I overwhelmed? Yes. God, am I stressed? Yes. God, do I need your help? Yes, emphatically, yes. I mean, that was just part of my prayer because we're human. We're going to feel these things at life, in life, even if we feel like we've mastered different areas. No, we're human. We have emotions, and that's what helps me is really remembering the good things about God, the promises of God. Um, God's my coach. He gives me pep talks. He helps me to see my value in Him, not from other people's eyes. And that's what gives me the confidence of who I can be in God. And so, however, your listeners draw strength from, I do want to encourage everyone to think of good things. Take time. If you don't pray, I want to encourage you to even try praying and try thinking about praiseworthy things, pure things, good things. Um, it's amazing what that'll do with the brain when you just start being grateful. You can even start writing a list of all the things you're grateful for. That's gonna make your day a lot happier and help your mindset. So hopefully that answers a little bit.
It does. It's great. And what's interesting is the same guys that wrote this book 10x is easier than 2x. They also to Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And Dr. Benjamin Hardy is actually he has a strong faith, and he went on mission trips and all sorts of things. He's a great writer. They also wrote a book called the Gap and the Gain, and it's about for all the books they write are for entrepreneurs or directed towards entrepreneurs. Um, and it's about the gap and the gain is specifically about how to feel happier, more confident, and just appreciate the journey for people that are achievers, right? Because it's easy to constantly feel stressed or comparing yourself to others, or I'm not there yet, right? It's like I'm 4 months into my business. I'm looking at the guy who's 5 years into his business, who's, doing millions of dollars of revenue, and when I do that, it makes me feel, whatever. And the concept is that when we focus on the gap of where we are now versus where we want to be, that creates stress, that creates anxiety, that creates comparison. Um, but the simple shift to just focusing on the gain. So, instead of, okay, here I am now focusing on the gap, here I am now, where have I come? How far have I come? And just doing that simple thing on a daily basis will help to feel happier and at least acknowledge in your business of, the progress that you've made, even if you're still not where you want to be. And one of their pieces of advice is the last hour before bed to journal and document your top 3 wins for the day. And it's very interesting. I'm looking forward to reading. I actually haven't even started reading The Gap in the Gain. I just finished the 10x is easier than 2x, but they talk about it a lot. So I don't even know if I need to read it now because I feel like I got the concept down at this point.
It sure sounded like you read it already.
But it's for me, it's something, as especially as an achiever, I'm always looking forward and like, I'm not there, not, I'm not, and there's just this kind of constant sensation of kind of anxiety and comparison. And so I'm really excited to put this into practice because I feel like it's going to be really, really helpful. And, especially for, folks like you and, specifically franchisees in that first year, it's tough. And the analogy is that, you have a 4-month-old baby. Yeah, you have two granddaughters, but you got your own baby, which is your business.
That's right. Absolutely. Um, no, I appreciate you referencing those books. I wanna definitely get those books. But you're right. I think what you said, instead of focusing on the gap, and yeah, because when I focus on the gap, I always fall short. I mean, there's always, if that's the only focus, then you're always falling short. You're not good enough in comparison to something else. But I appreciate you mentioning, take a look at the progress that's been made and celebrate that. That's a totally that triggers so many different emotions in such a positive way. And even you bring it up earlier, wow, it's been 10 months. I couldn't remember exactly the date in which we started our connection, but that encourages me, to be reminded. That helps me. Oh, okay, I can give myself a little bit of a pat on the back here, and just be thankful for the amount of progress. And for us, it's been a huge amount of progress. For others, people can accomplish a lot more in 10 months. For us, it's a lot. It's a lot of progress that's been made. Um, but yeah, no, thank you for reminding me of the progress that we need to focus on. That's another thing. That's honestly another thing to help us in this world not go crazy. Um, you know, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, kudos to you. I mean, you did the work, right? Like we in a world of unfinished promises and tasks and commitments and just a lot going on, just life that, busy. I mean, you came in, started with, the Franchise Buyers Academy. You went through all of it. I know the first 20-30% too is pretty dry because it's pretty basic. You made it through there and then just, making it through the process. So you did the hard work. You did the 10 franchisee validation calls, to make sure that you're checking your boxes, doing your due diligence, that you can get in a place of comfort to be able to do your homework. And then, at the end of the day, there's always that the rubber meets the road moment of like you've gone through all of that and it's like, are we really going to do this? And that moment is the scariest one, is the toughest one. And maybe at that point not for some, because it's like, okay, we did everything we could at this point, so it's the natural progression. But kudos to you, because at the end of the day, you were a great student in the sense that, like, you put in the time, you put in the work, you followed the system, and you know, that was you.
No, thank you, Tarek. Well, thank you for putting the system together to benefit people like us. And I will say, as you were sharing those thoughts, it reminded me how important it is, because I know some of your listeners will be single individuals, some will be married. It was really important for my wife and I to really be on board together. And, it took time for both of us to vet this and feel comfortable together, because I'm very apprehensive to pull the trigger on such a big decision if my wife is not on board with it as well. And so, for those married couples out there that are, again, on the fence, be patient. Sometimes you have to pause. Sometimes you gotta, cool the engines off a little bit to, just allow each other the space and the time to do their exploration and their own discovery. Because you don't want to start a business and you got more marriage problems. That's gonna be horrible. Okay,
That's not gonna help.
that's not the way to start a business. So that would be my encouragement for all the married couples listening. Is yeah, make sure both you and your spouse are on the same page, working together, and you know committed together, to make it work. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's great advice. I know that our first agreement signed 9 years ago now kind of twisted my wife's arm a bit, which was not the best way to go about it. Certainly, fortunately, it's now like we're a long ways past that, and it wind up working out. And yeah, to your point about just kind of like following God's plan and guidance, I think about um man, I think about all the points in my life where we it's sometimes we got to quiet to hear the voice. When we hear it, you got to do something about it. And I remember 9 years ago driving by this same shopping dirt lot shopping center every day on the way to get on the highway to go to my financial advising job. Same thing every day driving by, and one day getting off the exit, and it popped in my head like someone hit me in the head with a hammer. And it was like, "You need to open a franchise in that shopping center." And it was like, "What?" And I was instantly just filled with excitement, and I just knew in that moment, this has to happen. And, and that was a gift. That was a gift from God, and so it's like, listen to those moments. They're not always those hammer moments, sometimes it might be like a nail hitting you in the head, so you gotta kinda tune in a little bit more. But wow, I mean, it's so true. And I think about just over the years of the business, times of fear or struggle, like I always tune in and pray and just like, hey, guide me. And one of the things I pray for too is to bring the right people in my life and remove the wrong people from it. Just really interesting how that all plays out and happens. But I think that's our cue. Um, last but not least, for someone who is considering, um, you know, joining the zero to profitable franchise system, or kind of working with us, like making the investment, what would you say?
Yeah, for those who are considering joining the system and the program, I'd give it 10 stars. I don't know if it's 5 stars and above, but yeah, Tarek's system and team. If you want to learn how to own and acquire a franchise, they're the best. They help my wife and myself, and the investment cost that's up front will absolutely have a greater return of investment in the long run. When you finally get the right business for your skill sets and talents, and it's gonna pay off. The education, the team, the support that you're gonna receive, it's awesome. That has been our experience. So I highly recommend, those who are listening and are apprehensive, give me a call, reach out to me. I can share more if you want, with you personally. That's fine. But our experience with Tarek and the team has been fantastic. So highly, highly recommend it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Thank you for making it painless and really enjoyable conversation. And no, I hope it helps others to move forward as well.
Absolutely. Hey, before we go, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already. And the biggest thank you that you could ever give me is to share this episode with someone who you think will benefit. That means that we can share this message with more people and hopefully positively inspire them like we have you. So thank you. And until next time, go build your empire.